Remember, this was September 1990. Toward the end of July, Michael Callan and Douglas Dean, those two Hollywood professionals that had offered to do a contract with Cooper and package him to get the message out, and the very people that put together his extravaganza at the Showboat, one night received, each of them, a series of 5 life-threatening phone calls. The reason? Cooper was trying to extort from them the master tapes of all his presentations and his speeches that he had given. He had decided that because he had partners, he was losing a ton of money. He wanted all the money for himself. And regardless of the fact that he had signed contracts with Callan and Doug Dean, so at any rate, they get a series of absolutely drunken, threatening calls from Cooper, and I'm going to play a couple for you right here. The next morning, Cooper, who was living only a few miles from Douglas Dean in Arizona, had gone over to Dean's house, according to his gardener, because Dean had left in the middle of the night. At the time then, Dean was about 69, 70 years of age, living by himself, and he didn't want to be there when a drunken, bullying, stormtrooper type like Cooper came storming over to his house. When he got home later that day, after Cooper had been there and left, and he found this out from his gardener, all 4 tires on one of his vehicles was slashed. But I'll let Doug Dean tell you about it. And let me caution you, there is some very strong language in this. So if you are offended by strong language, this might be a part of the show that you don't want to listen to.
Weakest spot and be successful. And if you should not be successful, don't give up. Attack and attack and attack and attack and attack until he's laying bleeding on the ground and cannot ever get up again.
What you just heard is the voice of Milton William Cooper, Bill Cooper to his followers. My name is Douglas Dean, and I agree with his statement. When you're confronted with an enemy who is all set to kill you, survival facing imminent death is the name of the game. The trouble with Cooper's statement is that he believes everyone is his enemy. He trusts no one. He stated this in his lectures, and his past record shows his continuous onslaught and attack against anyone who gets in his way. The list is long. Michael Callan and I made the mistake of trying to help Cooper get his message across in a big way where it would do the most good. Instead of the nickel and dime operation he and his partner Stan Barrington were conducting. Promotion, the show business way, takes a lot of time, effort, and money. Cooper was all for it in the beginning, but his innate distrust through the 8 months of our association came to a head with his insistent demanding of all the master tapes of his lectures and interviews, which in reality never belonged to him, with the exception of tapes from 2 small lectures in Phoenix and Sedona, Arizona. Michael and I paid all the expenses to produce the rest of the tapes. Cooper and Barrington agreed at a meeting with Michael and myself at my home that we would not touch any of the monies taken in from the sale of the tapes, rolling over the account to take care of future expenses for larger orders of tapes, until we had a sizable amount that we could start taking profit from. After all the expenses were paid, the monies that I took in are still untouched in the Need-to-Know Productions account. Barrington still owes a sizable amount to that account from sales that he never turned in. Michael had 3 big lectures set up for Cooper, which he still doesn't know about. But Cooper's greed for the instant buck and demands for the master tapes gave Michael an uneasy feeling, which kept him from finalizing the deals that he was setting up. We are both more than happy that he didn't make those commitments. After a very poor turnout for his lecture at the San Diego Convention Center on May 26, 1990, Cooper's half-drunken firing of me was really a big laugh now that I look back on it. I didn't then, and never had, worked for him. On the 28th of July, 1990, at 1:30 in the morning, Michael got a series of phone calls from Cooper over an hour's period. When the phone awakened him, all he said was, "Hello," and kept the message unit on record. The following are unedited copies of those calls from Cooper, which are on file with the Los Angeles Police Department.
Michael, you've reached 602-567-6536. This is Bill, your old partner. And I just wanted to let you know that John Hart, one of the richest men in America, has assigned me some bodyguards and some security personnel. And he's really looking out after my interest. And I knew that you were really concerned about that. And I thought that you might want to know that everything's really been taken care of. And he's going to make sure that nothing ever happens to me that's bad. So, you know, you got my number, you got my address. In case you're getting a hankering to, you know, talk about the old times, just give me a call. Otherwise, I would suggest to be, you know, sort of careful. Don't ride any fucking Broncos. You know, since you've been hanging out with me, I wouldn't suggest that you go anywhere that you haven't been before. I'd just suggest that you be real careful, especially since you've been hanging around with me, because, you know, who knows what the government's going to do to either one of us. But I guarantee you, ain't nobody ever going to hurt me and get away with it. I suggest you think about that. Take care, Mike. I love you. Annie sends her best wishes, and, you know, little Dorothy, she ain't talking yet, but she loves you too. And we're going to make sure that you amount to something, even if it's a pile of horse shit. And you take care of yourself. We're going to be thinking about you all the time, and, you know, we'll call you in a couple of weeks just to see how you're doing. Take care, Michael. We miss you. I mean, we really miss you. And we're going to get you a real good present real soon.
Yeah, Bill Cooper jumping into the jug. Now, there are a number of other phone messages he left that night. Doug Dean ended up calling the sheriff's department. They took his call. They ended up coming out the next day. They investigated the slashed tires, and I will state for the record that they were never able to definitively pin that on Cooper. But Dean, as I said, was a man at the time, 69, 70 years of age, and I'm going to play just one last phone message he left to show you truly what a despicable man this was. This is Cooper, now really intoxicated, calling up Doug Dean sometime in the wee hours of the morning.
You dumb son of a bitch. If you don't straighten things out, you're the dumbest son of a bitch that ever lived. In fact, you may not even live.
So, what are you going to do with somebody like that? We refuse to be intimidated by this guy. Personally, on a personal level, I would have loved it if he would have confronted me somewhere. But the man knew better, because I would have gone off on him like a proverbial 4th of July fireworks display. But when he was at the other end of the phone, guy was real brave, real tough. This is some more of that Goodman debate. The wee hours of September the 27th, 1990.
What is that?
I think the facts are that the reason the people wanted...
tell the truth, or doesn't he? It's cut and dry.
Okay, but Don, I think with the mail that I received, I just want you to know what they wanted to know. They wanted to know if, in fact, you were telling the truth in the magazine of Bill Cooper's
Well, if I'm not telling the truth, and it's very simple. Cooper can sue me.
Right.
We'll go to court.
That's what a lot of mail also. Bill, are you in the process of suing them?
Well, if you'd gotten my newsletter number 6, you would have seen that because of what UFO Magazine has done, I now have more speaking engagements than I've ever had in my life.
Well, that's a nice
Issue number 6, I encourage Vicki Cooper and Don Eckert to continue, because now people who never heard my name before want me to come and talk in their town.
Now, that's my point, Billy.
But that's
We're still in Las Vegas, and I tried to go on head-to-head with Mr. Cooper, and he stated that he already had a legal suit filed.
Right.
Now, I rest my case.
Wait a minute. I called Billy Goodman back and told him that I would be willing to go on with you that Saturday.
That's right.
Billy said that you were then not willing.
Well, then he didn't tell you the truth, because I tried to call him 3 times that week to find out.
Hold it. I never said he was not willing. I never said that, Bill Cooper. No, I never said he was not.
Misunderstood you.
Yeah,
I
no.
called you back and told
I never. I said I would see what would happen. I was supposed to hear from him, and I guess he never reached me. And
Maybe that's what it was.
Well, I was in the process of moving into the network situation. But anyway,
Oh, yeah. So,
Or did he not belong on a...
show didn't last much longer that night. Of course, nothing was really accomplished. And soon thereafter, Cooper moved out of the UFO field and went strictly into the Patriot movement. For a while, he had a shortwave broadcast called The Hour of the Time. Some wag coined it the Hour of the Slime. But be that as it may, Cooper had a rather mixed review in all circles across the United States. While he was still living in Long Beach police came out on a number of domestic dispute calls. I really felt sorry for the woman he was married to at the time. He had married a Chinese woman, brought her over here, and I had met her one time very briefly back in 1988. And Cooper would get liquored up, and whatever demons he was fighting, whether it was the demons in a bottle or the demons in his head, he would take it out on this woman. She eventually left him. By 2000, he was living down in Edgar, Arizona, and several warrants were out after him. Now, Cooper had a website, and he used to have periodic updates up there on the government coming to get him. And he claimed that he would meet any government agent or police officer with armed resistance. Now, remember, this was a few short years after the debacle at Waco, Texas, under Janet Reno, with the mass killing of over 80, almost 100 people at the Branch Davidian compound. And undoubtedly, the feds were fearful that another showdown like that would end up in another major shootout. But the warrants that Cooper had at that time hanging over his head included tax evasion, included bank defrauding, and the guy was just, quite frankly, a rather unpleasant character to be around. Just before he was killed in the shootout with police, a man had been driving by Cooper's property. Apparently, he either pulled into the property to turn around or something, but Cooper came storming out of his house, jumped in his vehicle, chased this man down, forced him off the road, and pulled him out of his car at gunpoint. The man happened to be a local medical doctor, an MD. As soon as he was able to get out of there, he contacted the police. The sheriff's department knew who Cooper was, and they knew that he had a reputation for being just a little dangerous. So that night, they came out, a SWAT team, surrounded his house. Then a couple of deputies jumped in a pickup truck, like a couple of teenagers, and were running around on his property. And Cooper heard them and came storming out. Jumped in his vehicle, went chasing down there after them. He was armed. They identified themselves as police officers and told him he was under arrest. He jumped back in his car, shot back up to his house. One officer jumped out in front of him, and he almost ran him down. The man was only able to get away by jumping out of the way. And upon getting to his house, he jumped out of his car. Another police officer popped out, screamed at him to halt. Cooper fired his weapon, striking this policeman in the head. The man was a Desert Shield veteran, former Marine, and the last I heard, he was still in very bad shape, although thank God he didn't die. The police immediately returned fire. Cooper was killed. Should have been the end of the story. Unfortunately, it's not. There are still people out there that think that Bill Cooper was the real deal. I wrote an obituary for him for UFO magazine. As a matter of fact, I also wrote one for the 14 Times in the United Kingdom. The sad fact of the story was Cooper was a deeply disturbed man that saw everybody as an enemy. He also thought that he had found his way to financial security by hawking one of the most extraordinary conspiracy theories in the world around the web and around the world. Unfortunately, there are still people out there today that think that Bill Cooper was on to something. Well, my final word on it, the only thing Bill Cooper was on was a fifth of Chivas Regal. Hey, sad story. And there will be those people that probably go to their grave thinking he was the real deal.